Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. Hell in a Cell just fucking ended, like literally seconds before I started recording. I called it. I fucking called it. I've got my notes here, as well as my prediction notes. By the way, most of the predictions are invalid because 2 or 3 of the matches got completely fucked around with. Okay, maybe it was just one match. Anyways, let's just go over it. I missed the pre-show, the kickoff, because I was working. I didn't come into the pay-per-view until pretty much the ending of the first match on the pay-per-view. But during the pre-show, apparently there were some backstage segments where some shit got changed around. The main one of importance is up on the panel, the pre-show panel, which was Josh Matthews hosting once again, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, and Caitlyn. But somewhere during the pre-show, Big E Langston went up to the panel and he was talking with them, and I don't really know what exactly provoked it, but for some reason, out came the Shield guys. And they were basically just making fun of Big E, saying he's just an NXT rookie, all this other crap. And Big E basically said, "Hey Ambrose, why don't you put your money where your mouth is?" And so Big E gets taken out of what was supposed to be the kickoff show match versus Axel for the Intercontinental title. Don't know why. I guess we didn't see Axel at all during this pay-per-view, so I don't know where the hell he went. Who cares? But whatever. So instead of an Intercontinental title match, Big E wound up getting a US title match. But that comes later in the show. That wasn't even the pre-show. It was just a little segment that brought the match to come about. The match we actually got during the pre-show was Damien Sandow versus Kofi Kingston. Damien won. Apparently he hit some full Nelson slam and got the win instead of hitting the cross-arm neck breaker. The terminus, whatever the fuck. But yeah. And also during the kickoff, I believe we also probably noticed then that Rey Mysterio, for some reason, was sitting at the Spanish announce table. I'm going to guess that either Rey announced retirement because his knees are too fucking shot to shit after all these injuries. He can't wrestle anymore, so he'll be a Spanish announcer. I don't know, but he's on the announce table for the night. We had the Sandow versus Kingston match. The pay-per-view started with the triple threat tag team title match. The Rhodeses, the Shield, and the Usos. I saw the very ending of the match. All hell broke loose. A bunch of guys got laid out on the outside. And what ended up happening is Cody was able to hit the crossroads on Seth Rollins, and he got the win. So the Rhodes retain the titles. Whoop-de-shit. That's one thing that I missed on my predictions, aside from them completely changing the kickoff match. Anyways, there's a little segment that shows Triple H and Shawn, I guess, joking around. They're kind of laughing together backstage. I don't know what the hell that's about. We don't really get to hear any dialogue between them. But whatever. After that, the Miz's music hits, and he comes out to the ring. And he's still selling from his beating that he took on SmackDown. He talks about the Wyatts, how they jumped him, how they painted liar on him, yada yada. And he says while he's not cleared to wrestle, which was something else that came up during the pre-show, he went up to Vicky and asked for a match against Bray, and she said, "You're not cleared to wrestle." So Miz comes out and he says, "I'm not cleared to wrestle, but I can damn sure fight." He calls Bray out. And instead of Bray coming out, his music hits, and they cut to the Titantron, where Bray is, of course, shown sitting in his rocking chair. He cuts some stupid promo. And of course, during this whole thing, the lights are out. So, what do you think is going to happen? After he's done with the damn promo, they do the cutaway gag, and they cut back to the ring where the lights are still out. They finally come back on, and of course, there's Harper and Rowan, who jumped The Miz, beat the fuck out of him. And Miz gets laid out, and then all of a sudden, the stage blows up with Kane's pyro. Kane's back. He comes running down to the ring. He chases off Harper and Rowan, smacks them around a little bit. They run off. Miz finally gets to his feet. He's still selling. And he looks grateful to Kane for saving him. And then Kane decides to chokeslam The Miz for no reason. He grabs him by the throat, lifts him up, chokeslams the fuck out of him. And then he does his little corner pyro in the ring. And then Kane leaves. So, Kane's back, but he's still a dick, I guess, is the point to this. He don't like anybody. He just wants to fight Bray Wyatt. So, hopefully, what this means is the crowd reaction to Bray and The Miz feuding was so negative, they said, fuck it, we'll just have The Miz piss off, and Kane will come back, and they'll continue the feud with Kane and the Wyatts. Which, to be honest, that sounds better, because Miz had no point in feuding with the Wyatts, or the Wyatts had no point in feuding with him. It didn't make any sense whatsoever, and nobody gave a fuck. So whatever, let's just have Kane keep going with it. Whatever. But anyways, after that, Fandango's music hits, and out Johnny comes with Summer Rae, of course. They do their entrance with all the dancing on all this other shit, and they get in the ring finally, and Johnny gets a mic, and he starts talking. And he's talking about, I'm the only true master of the salsa dance. Some shit like that. He starts, like, salsa dancing with Summer. And they get cut off by the great Khali's music. He comes out with Natalya and Hornswoggle. And the ring announcer says, and their opponents, and I'm like, wait, since when was this going to be a match? So I guess they figured, okay, we need some filler, let's have an impromptu tag match. Yeah, and by the way, this was a mixed tag match. Summer Rae's debut in the WWE, a mixed tag match, her and Johnny versus Khali and Natalya. Guess how it went? Not so great. It was a lot of back and forth type shit. The girls got tagged in for a while, and then the guys got brought back in for a while. And it finally ended. Summer was able to get to the ropes when Natalya was going for the sharpshooter. So she didn't even get the sharpshooter locked in. Summer just scrambled and crawled over to the ropes and got a rope break. Summer jumps up after the rope break and gets a roll-up on Natalya and gets the win. So Summer, in her debut match, gets the same bullshit win that Johnny did against Jericho at WrestleMania, essentially. Here's a tip to the WWE. Don't debut someone unless you're going to have them look strong. There's no point in debuting people and having them look weak. If someone has to use a roll-up, a very, very weak roll-up, to beat someone, they don't look weak at all. And Natalya really needs to learn how to get out of a roll-up, because she's lost to more roll-ups than she's lost to actual finishing moves. It's sickening at this point. Natalya is a good wrestler. She shouldn't be able to lose to such bullshit. Good God, they treat her like shit. Moving on, they cut back to the panel, and they talk again, and who gives a fuck? And then the Shield music hits, and out comes Ambrose for the US title match. Why the champion is coming out first? I don't know, but that sets the trend for the evening, because it happens 2 or 3 more times. Anyways, after Ambrose comes out, Big E comes out, of course. U.S. title match. The match was actually fairly decent. Ambrose resulted to using the ring itself as a weapon against Big E. Since he couldn't out-muscle Big E, obviously, he had to use the ring to his advantage. It started, they were both outside of the ring, and Ambrose was kind of half underneath the ring. Big E throws up the apron to try and expose the thing. Ambrose grabs him and pulls him into the metal grating underneath the ring apron, so Big E takes a hard knock there. He ends up eating the post later on. Later on, Ambrose is on the apron again, and Big E comes running, spears Ambrose through the ropes, and they both fall out to the floor. So, oh yeah, and I believe it was after that spot that Big E got up, rolled back in the ring, and Ambrose decided, fuck it, he gets counted out. On purpose, basically. So Big E wins the match by count out, but Ambrose remains champion. Ambrose is trying to leave with the belt. Big E grabs him and pulls him back. And he lifts him up and hits the big ending on Ambrose. And also should mention that Big E had a cut under his eye somewhere in the middle of the match. I think what it was is Big E came running and did like that avalanche where he just floors the guy. He did that, and I think Ambrose's chin caught Big E right under the eye and gave him a nice little cut, and so he had a nice little stream of blood going down the side of his face. Fortunately, it was under the eye, so the blood didn't go into his eye. So, yeah. Anyways, like I said, he hits the big ending on Ambrose after the match, and then he grabs the U.S. title and he's holding it up. And I'm surprised that the Shield guys, Rollins and Reigns, didn't come out to, help Ambrose. But it didn't matter, because Big E didn't really do anything else after that. He just kind of draped the belt across Ambrose's chest, and then he left. After that, they show that the cell is lowering. And it's time for a recap, of course, because we can't go without a recap. But it recaps Raw, Axel and Punk, the Beat the Clock Challenge crap, and, whatever the hell. So it's time for the handicap Hell in a Cell match. Punk's music hits, he comes out. Then Ryback's music hits, and he comes out by himself. And I'm wondering, okay, where the fuck's Heyman? And even the announcers are like, where's Heyman at? All of a sudden, the camera starts looking back towards the stage, and there's Heyman on one of these big, I don't know if you would know exactly what it is, but it's a big lift thing that they use. It's kind of like a cherry picker, only without the big crane arm thing. It's just this big lift thing on wheels that you can kind of use levers to steer it around. By the way, the guy that they got to drive this thing had no clue what he was doing. It was teetering back and forth and just wobbling around, and it took him forever to get the damn thing down to the ring. But it finally gets down to the ring. Heyman is on this lift. And as he comes out, he's cutting a promo. He's talking about how he is the devil, and Ryback is going to collect the soul of CM Punk and all this bullshit. And it gets to the point where the lift is right up next to the side of the cell, right blocking the door, too. And it starts lifting Heyman up. It's obvious by now. Heyman's going to the top of the cell, because he didn't want to be in the cell with Punk, because he knew he'd get his ass kicked. He gets done cutting his promo, and he gets out of the lift and onto the top of the cell, and he parks his ass there for the entire match. Spoiler alert, by the way. So essentially, instead of this being a handicap match, this was one-on-one. Punk and Ryback are inside the cell, fighting it out, while Heyman is just up top, chilling. But anyways, still turned out to be a good match. Punk uses a kendo stick, and there was Ryback ramming into the cell wall. And then Punk got a table out, but Ryback stopped him. Back in the ring, Ryback gets Punk up for the backpack stunner. Punk is able to get out of the shell shock. More stick shots. Punk hits the macho elbow. More stick shots. Punk finally gets the table inside the ring, and he's half set it up, but Ryback stops him again, and he sets the table on its side. And then he lifts Punk up like a belly-to-back suplex, and he spins him around and drops him nuts first on the edge of the table. So Punk gets racked on the table edge. After Punk finally falls off of the damn table after selling it, he gets up and Ryback comes running, hits the meat hook clothesline. After that, Ryback gets nut-shotted. Punk hits him in the nuts, and I'm thinking, well, it's about damn time. It's a Hell in a Cell. You can cheat your ass off. Jesus Christ. Anyways, after the nut shot, the table had finally been set up properly. Ryback gets nut-shotted, and he staggers over and falls on top of the table. So now he's laying on it. Punk's like, oh yeah, and he goes up to the top rope again, and he does the macho elbow again through the table, puts Ryback through the table. He uses the kendo stick again. I think he just blasts Ryback in the face with it, and then gets him up on his shoulders, hits the GTS, kinda struggles to get into the cover, but he finally does, and he gets the 1, 2, and 3. Punk wins. Yay! After the match and after some celebrating, Punk goes under the ring and gets a fresh kendo stick. He's looking up at Heyman still on the top of the cell. Heyman's got nowhere to go. The lift is gone. It's not blocking the door anymore. Heyman's got nowhere to go. Punk takes the stick and he wedges it down the back of his trunks. And I'm like, okay, well, that's one way to do it. He does this because he has to climb up the side of the cage. And he can't very well do it while, holding a kendo stick in his hand. I remember one time somebody had a kendo stick with a wrist wire on it, and they just kind of wrapped it around their wrist, and then they climbed like that. But no, he just decides, I'm just going to jam it down my trunks. There you go. But anyways, he goes up the side of the cell, and he gets up there, and Heyman is shitting himself, of course, because he's got nowhere to go. He's a treed squirrel. And Punk is the hunting dog, coming up after him. Punk finally gets up to the top, and he pulls the stick out of his trunks, and he has to chase Heyman around a little bit, but he finally grabs him, and he starts beating the shit out of him with this fucking kendo stick. Just repeatedly, whack, 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 whack. Just beating the shit out of him. And then after that, Punk gets Heyman up on his shoulders, hits the GTS on him, and it looks like Heyman's face really ate Punk's knee on that one, because he went down in a crumpled heap. He's out. Punk celebrates, and that's the end of that. I'm guessing Punk had to climb down. We cut backstage to Renee Young, who's doing an interview with Daniel Bryan. Whatever, they talk, and Bryan ends with more, yes, yes, yes. I think after that, they cut back out to the ring area, and the commentators had to say, well, we still have the cell lowered because, paramedics and the ring doctors or whatever are trying to get Heyman's corpse off the friggin' top of the cell because he hasn't moved. So they had to waste time with filler shit. And then, Los Matadores come out. with El Torito, of course. Yeah, it's time for this match. They recap SmackDown when El Torito attacked Zeb Coulter, distracting the Real Americans and costing them a match against the Usos. Yada, yada, yada. After that, the Real Americans come out with Coulter, and Zeb talks on the way down to the ring, of course. It ends with a We the People and whatever the fuck. The match starts. It's crap. Cesaro does his big swing. Swagger gets the Patriot Lock locked in on one of the Matadors, but it gets broken up somehow. And then both of the Matadors wind up back inside the ring, and they hit a new tag move on, I think it was Swagger, and they get the win. The crowd was dead because they couldn't give a shit about the Matadors or El Torito. And honestly, with the way Cesaro has been doing the swing, he's been getting more pops. So yeah. After the match is over, Coulter gets into the ring and he's crying. He's basically having like a little tantrum in the ring. And of course, the Matadors notice him and they're like, oh hey. And then El Torito comes in and hits Coulter again and knocks him out of the ring. And of course, Coulter and Cesaro and Swagger all leave dejected. After that, we get another recap of Cena's bullshit. His recovery from the injury, the surgery, all that shit. And it's also spliced back and forth with Del Rio and all the shit that he's done in the last couple of months. And Del Rio saying how he's going to hurt Cena. Del Rio's music hits and he comes out with the world title. Yes, again, the champion comes out first. Of course. Cena comes out. And then they do, of course, the big title match introductions. And it's about now that I noticed that Cena has a big black pad over his hurt elbow. Or I should say his recuperating elbow or whatever the fuck. But anyways, time for the match. Yes, the World Heavyweight title match. It turned out to be decent, I guess, but really not all that great. In the early going of the match, Del Rio is really focused on targeting Cena's hurt arm. So he's going for moves that target the arm, and Cena is having to use the ropes to break the holds and get Del Rio the hell off of him. You know. Anyways, they show Damien Sandow watching backstage, and he's got his Money in the Bank briefcase. He's looking on. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to cash in. Cena starts doing his comeback, but before he can hit the attitude adjustment, Del Rio slips out of it and does the backcracker. They get up on the top rope, and Cena hits a tornado DDT on Del Rio. Yes, you heard that right. Cena did a tornado DDT. They show Sandow backstage again. Cena gets put in the Tree of Woe, but Del Rio comes running to shoulder tackle him for some idiotic reason. And of course, Cena pulls himself up and gets out of the way. Del Rio goes in and cracks the corner post with his shoulder. Cena gets up on the top rope. Del Rio starts getting up, and Cena comes down with a big flying crossbody. He gets the STF locked in on Del Rio, but Del Rio is able to make it to the ropes. And after that, Del Rio is able to hit the concussion kick on Cena, but he only gets a 2 count, of course. Del Rio gets the cross arm breaker locked in, but Cena is able to get out of it by lifting Del Rio up and basically powerbombing him. After that, I believe, was when they both got up. They countered a little bit around and around. I think Del Rio went for the arm breaker again, and Cena got out of it. Lifts Del Rio up, hits the attitude adjustment, and wins. Duh. Who didn't think that was going to happen? Of course, fucking Cena won. He wins, and he gets the belt, and he celebrates. No cash in. Because Sandow's not stupid enough to try and cash in on Cena. After that, they cut to a commercial or promo package or whatever for the next pay-per-view coming up in November, which is Survivor Series. And this promo was weird because it was Bray Wyatt and talking about alligators or crocodiles or whichever one it was. All I really got out of this is Survivor Series is on November 24th. So at least we have a couple of weeks to wait until that. Anyways, they cut back to the panel once again, and they talk more about all the other stupid shit. And by now you're probably wondering, we're almost done with this pay-per-view. Where the hell was the Divas title match? Well, apparently, I believe AJ was on a late flight to come into Miami, which, by the way, that's where the pay-per-view is. They were in Miami, Florida. But anyways, apparently AJ caught a late flight into Miami. I don't know where the hell she was before, but either way, apparently she was late getting to the arena, so they had to delay the Divas title match up until now. Anyways, but after the panel, there's AJ's music, and she comes out with Tamina. And then Brie comes out with Nikki. And we've got the Divas title match. And of course, even with AJ in this match, it was still shit. Because they thought it necessary to have the Bella try and get some offense in, and it looked so bad. So fucking bad. Horrible drop kicks. Another horrible Canadian Maple Leaf. Fucking... The main highlights of the match was finally towards the end, Tamina got up on the apron to try and distract the referee. Nikki runs over and grabs her feet out from under her, and Tamina's head smacks the apron hard. They're tussling on the outside, and this was kind of a distraction for Brie, obviously. AJ was kind of leaned up against the ropes, and Brie came running to do that big knee to the face thing she's been doing lately. I don't know if I've mentioned that, but she has been doing that lately. But AJ moves out of the way, and Nikki was behind her, so Brie ends up kneeing Nikki in the back of the head. And of course, she just nailed her sister. She's distracted by this. AJ comes running up, locks in the Black Widow, and Brie has to tap out. So AJ wins. Yay, that's the only good part. The bad part is we still saw a shitty match. They cut backstage to the primetime players playing the new WWE 2K14 video game, which, by the way, isn't even out yet. They're playing the game and whoop-de-shit, and all of a sudden, a wild Bob Backlund appears. Yelling, fucking whatever the fuck. The primetime players are yelling at him like, "You look real sweaty, man. What the hell you been doing?" and all this dumb shit. Anyways, they start doing their stupid millions of dollars dance with Backlund in between them, and that's how the segment ends. Ugh. We cut more backstage to Triple H and Shawn Michaels again, who they're not joking around anymore. It's time for business, because up next we've got the WWE title match. They show another recap of Shawn winning the frickin' fan vote. And the whole training thing with Bryan, you know, all that crap. And they show the whole fucking recap of the whole thing. Shawn's music hits, and out he comes. Ref shirt and all. Randy comes out. And oh yeah, by the way, after the frickin' recap, they still hadn't bothered to lower the cell back down. I don't know why. But anyways, Shawn comes out, and Randy comes out, and Daniel Bryan comes out. And it's looking like we're about ready to start the match. And then the King of Kings music hits. Triple H comes out holding the WWE title belt. He comes out and he gets in the ring. He shows the belt to Randy and shakes Randy's hand, and then he shows the belt to Bryan, and he goes to shake Bryan's hand, but Bryan don't want to shake it. And so Triple H is like, okay, fine. He hands the belt to Michaels, and Triple H gets the hell out of the ring and he leaves. He heads back through the curtain. Finally, the damn cage lowers, and they start the match. It was decent, I guess. Randy's using the stairs. Bryan reverses it. Randy went to Irish whip Bryan into the stairs, propped up against the cage wall, but Bryan reversed it, threw Randy into it. Randy gets put in the Tree of Woe, and Bryan comes running with a big drop kick. He nails it. On the outside, Randy's on the outside. Bryan comes with the suicide dive, and he hits it and nails Randy up against the wall. He goes for it again, and Randy sidesteps it, so Bryan eats the cage. After that, Randy picked Bryan up, and belly-to-back suplexes him up, and then racks Bryan's nuts into the ring post there in the corner. Oh yeah, and he basically hung him there, grabbed him by the head, and did the back and neck breaker thing right there out of the corner on the post. So yeah. Back in the ring, they were up on the corner, and Bryan jumped out and did a sunset flip powerbomb on Randy. After that, they're doing dueling European uppercuts again. Randy was down. Bryan did the big headbutt. He was able to lock in the yes lock. And since they were in a Hell in a Cell, there's no rope breaks. Randy gets to the rope, and Shawn's like, I can't break it. It's a Hell in a Cell match. And so Randy basically has to kind of crawl out of the ring to break the friggin' hold. He does that, though. He starts throwing Bryan up against the cage wall. Or no, I think Bryan throws Randy into the cage wall. And then Bryan grabs a chair out from under the ring, and he starts whacking Randy with the chair. Randy's down. Bryan's going under the ring, grabbing a whole bunch of chairs and just throwing them into the ring. There's a big friggin' pile in the middle of the ring. Bryan grabs another chair and jams Randy in the guts with it, then throws him back in the ring. Bryan's going to hit Randy with the chair again, but Randy jumps up and rakes Bryan's eyes. And then Randy grabs the chair and smacks Bryan with it a few times. And then Randy starts piling all the chairs up. He gets all the chairs piled up in the middle of the ring. And then he gets Bryan up on the top rope. They fight a little bit, but Bryan's still stuck up there. Randy cinches him up. Top rope super duperplex. Off the top rope. They land not even really all that close to the chairs. I think Bryan's feet smacked a couple of the chairs. But they missed the pile by a lot. Right. After that, the superplex, Randy covered Bryan and only got a 2 count. I guess Bryan kicked out. But Randy's complaining. He's like, that was 3 and whatever. Triple H comes back down. He's yelling at Shawn, that was 3 and whatever. And he's distracting Shawn. Shawn's on the outside of the ring, arguing with Triple H through the damn cage, because Triple H isn't inside the cage. He's over by the commentators. Bryan goes for the yes lock, but Randy counters out of it. And he gets Bryan hung on the ropes, and he hits the hung DDT. And Randy's getting ready to do the RKO, and he goes for it, but Bryan catches him, shoves him, into Michaels, who's back in the ring by this point. He's back in the ring, but he's still over by the ropes arguing with Triple H. But Randy gets shoved into him, and Michaels goes down in the corner. And Triple H is like, oh shit, Shawn, are you okay? And Triple H grabs the doctor from ringside, and they run around the cage, and they go to the referee who's watching the door, and they're like, we gotta get in there, we gotta check on Shawn. So the ref opens the door like a jackass, of course. During this whole thing, Randy was, of course, stunned. He got countered. So Bryan comes running, and he hits the big super fucking knee on Randy. Randy's out. He goes for the cover, and the crowd's chanting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the fuck they got up to. And he's like, what the fuck? Because, of course, Shawn's not counting because he's out in the corner. He goes over to Shawn. He's like, are you okay? He's trying to wake him up. By this point, Triple H comes in the cage, and he gets in the ring, and he grabs Bryan and just kind of throws him back. And then Triple H goes looking at Shawn. He's like, Shawn, are you okay? And whatever. Bryan gets back up, and he's in the opposite corner. Triple H is still kind of tending to Shawn, but he stands up and turns around, and Bryan comes running, super knees the fuck out of Triple H. Wipes him the fuck out. And Shawn's already coming to at this point. Bryan gets up after the super knee, turns around, and Shawn sweet chin musics him in the fucking face. So, of course, Michaels had to backstab Bryan, just like I fucking thought. After the sweet chin music, Randy covers Bryan, and Michaels counts 1, 2, 3. Randy fucking wins and is your new WWE champion. Michaels gets the fuck out of there because he knows that he don't want to stay around anymore. Bryan leaves, I guess. The cage raises. Triple H and Randy are in the ring celebrating. That's the end of the fucking pay-per-view. So once again, we get fucked over again. Shitty storyline. So sick of this crap. I gotta finish this shit up. Well, I guess I don't really, because it's only been about a half an hour. Yeah, since I was at work, I didn't get to watch The Walking Dead, which is also on Sundays, and I'm hoping to catch the replay at midnight, so I want to get this finished up. But we got a half an hour, so I guess I don't need to hurry. Let's go over my predictions and compare them to what actually happened. Well, first of all, the kickoff, Axel and Big E for the Intercontinental title match, that got changed, so I don't even know how to count that. They completely changed the match. How does it even count? I guess we can just strike that off, I guess. AJ and Brie, the Divas title, I did predict that AJ would win, and I was right, so that's 1 point. The Triple Threat Tag title match, I predicted the Shield, but they didn't win. The Rhodes did. They retained, so there's 1 wrong. Ryback and Heyman versus Punk, the Handicap Hell in a Cell match, I did predict that Punk would win, and I was right, although it was more of a singles match than it was really a handicap match. I'm still going to count it. Del Rio versus Cena for the World Heavyweight title. Of course Cena was going to win, and I predicted that. I suppose the match wasn't the squash that I predicted it to be, but then again, it wasn't exactly super competitive. Del Rio was in control most of the match, working Cena's arm, beating the shit out of him, and Cena was only able to win with a surprise attitude adjustment out of nowhere. Fucking garbage. The Los Matadores versus Real Americans, which they only just announced on SmackDown. I did predict that the Matadors would win, even though it pains me to predict that shit. So that's another one I got right. And the U.S. title match, which I predicted as being possible, that did actually happen. So I guess that's another one I got right. Although I also did happen to predict Sandow cashing in, or I said it was possible. But whatever. He didn't cash in, but whatever. And then the big one, Orton and Bryan, the Hell in a Cell for the WWE title. I predicted Bryan, but Orton won, so that one I missed. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of these predictions I got right, and 1, 2 I got wrong. And the other ones don't even really count, because possibilities aren't really... Not only that, but who the hell could have predicted the friggin' impromptu mixed tag match with Fandango and Summer beating Kali and Natalya? I don't think anything had even happened in the past couple of weeks to even hint that this would even happen. So, that was completely out of nowhere. But whatever. So, who gives a shit? Once again, I guess I'll go over the matches, the quality of the matches. Of the matches I saw, at least. The first of which being Fandango and Summer versus Kali and Natalya. Once again, wasn't so great. Ambrose and Big E for the U.S. title was decent. Really bad finish, though, the count-out finish. Although I suppose that's probably the only way that Ambrose could have kept the title. He wasn't going to beat Big E without one hell of an effort. Punk versus Ryback and Heyman was good, despite Heyman not getting his ass kicked until after the match. The Matadors and the Real Americans was a pretty crap match. It was fairly short, and you know, I actually liked Primo and Epico, but this Matadors gimmick sucks. And the stupid midget bull, who the fuck cares? The commentators were making a big goddamn deal out of it because for tonight, the bull was wearing a black bull suit when he had been wearing like a brown bull suit. JBL decided to make a big fucking stink about that, and I'm like, dude, nobody cares. Shut the fuck up, you shitty, lousy announcer. Anyways, Cena and Del Rio, the world title match was decent. Although, it's hard to be anything better than that when you're in a match with Cena where you about know Cena's gonna win. AJ and Brie was shit, but it was a Divas match, so who can really blame you? Unless you put AJ in there with Caitlyn, or with Natalya, or with, you know, somebody who can wrestle. It's not gonna be a good match. Can we please bring Paige up from NXT? I'm begging you, we need something good in the Divas division. Bring up Paige. So yeah, that one was shit. And then Orton and Bryan in the title match, Hell in a Cell, was decent again. I've seen better Hell in a Cell matches. Randy winning was horse shit. I knew HBK was going to stab Bryan in the back. So what are we going to do? Are we going to build up to Bryan feuding with Michaels? Is that going to lead up to a WrestleMania match? I thought Michaels was retired. What are we going to do here? This whole storyline has sucked from the beginning. But anyways, that was the pay-per-view. Once again, Hell in a Cell, October 27th, 2013, Miami, Florida, the American Airlines Arena. Overall, the pay-per-view was really not all that great. We didn't really have any great matches. Fucking the only one was good was Punk versus Ryback, and that astounds me because Ryback sucks. But then again, it was mostly Punk, so everything else was either decent or shit. And that's just sad on a pay-per-view. Now, I didn't see all of the triple threat tag match. I'm sure it was decent at least. I don't know if it was good or great. And I didn't see Sandow and Kingston in the opening, the pre-show. But I'm sure it wouldn't have been that great even with Sandow winning. But like I said, that was the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Wasn't so great. Randy's our new fucking WWE champion, and Cena is the new World Heavyweight champion. God damn. It's just not getting any better. Whatever. That's the end of the show. See you guys tomorrow night for Raw. Hopefully Shawn Michaels is going to get his fucking head kneed off of his damn body. Super knee from Bryan. I'm sick of Shawn coming back. Okay? He got retired by The Undertaker 3-4 WrestleManias ago. Stay the fuck gone. And by the way, I'd like to send out a big thank you to all of the idiots who voted for Michaels on that stupid app vote. They probably rigged it, but anybody who did vote for Michaels, you're fucking retarded. If you would have just voted for Backlund, this shit wouldn't have happened. Thanks a lot. Michaels needs to stay gone. And hopefully after he gets his head kicked in by Bryan, hopefully he will stay gone. I'm hoping that happens tomorrow night on Raw. Michaels gets his fucking head kicked in, and then Bryan kicks the shit out of Triple H too for good measure. And then pisses in Stephanie's mouth. But then again, she might like that, because she's a whore. Fuck this shit, man. And this really sucks, because I've been trying to stay positive the last couple of days. I know I always kind of come off as being really negative. But when you give me shit like this to work with, that's all I got. I can't really be positive about this shit. Where's the upshot? Where's the silver lining? I can't see one. We're going to continue this crappy feud between Bryan and Randy. And it's going to keep going until we can get a fair referee, keep Triple H's giant nose away from the fucking ring, keep Shawn Michaels the hell away from the fucking ring, and we can get a fair one-on-one match. No Shield, no Big Show, no bullshit. And it's already gotten old at this point. But anyways, I keep trying to wrapping up and I get sidetracked. Let's wrap it up for good this time. Once again, that was Hell in a Cell from October 27th, 2013, Miami, Florida. We will see you tomorrow night for Raw, and hopefully they get this shit fixed. See you then.